Haidong! In this video, we're going to talk about how to do a shoulder roll without a scabbard. The reason I bring that up is as you learn, at least according to in the Federation guidelines, you usually don't have to use a metal sword until you are first dan. There's a whole other thing I can discuss with that, but I'm going to just say that as a fact. You're not required to use a metal sword until your first degree, and you've learned Form 5 before that. So you actually don't need to do the shoulder roll with a scabbard at your hip. It does make the whole thing a little bit easier to navigate because you're just working on the acrobatic technique itself. So even if you do normally use a scabbard, I do recommend you use a scabbard, train without one first, right? So as you're learning how to do the shoulder roll, because there's going to be a lot of moving parts, at least the first couple times you do it. So let's, I guess without any further ado, let's kind of dive into ways to kind of progress towards it. Hopefully this shows up in the video. So let's first kind of talk about where we're doing this, right? So in the form, we just did our running, jump, cut. We're here, we switch, get down even lower, and then we go into our shoulder roll, right? So shoulder roll from here, and we'll do our thrust. I believe I'm out of camera, so I'm going to shimmy on over here and finish. Something like this, right? And then you go in, you stab, and then you finish the rest of your form very kind of sassily at the end with a little overhead spin, but you just shoulder roll, stabbed into someone. So let's break that down a little bit, kind of get an idea about how to work up to it, and then in the next video we're going to actually incorporate the scabbard. So first, try it without a sword at all, right? Now I've seen many different ways of doing this. There's a way that my master, so Master Paul, taught me how to do it. There's a way that I've kind of incorporated into my own kind of thing. I'm sure there are jiu-jitsu and Aikido people who know how to do this way better than I do. So I guess a quick caveat is I am not an expert in shoulder rolling. It is not my forte, or fort is actually how to pronounce it, that's okay. And also another caveat, so this is going to be something else, more like a little asterisk, is make sure you do this safely. So this is actually how I did damage my lateral meniscus on my left knee because I did not tuck properly as I did my shoulder roll, and that resulted in this, which split the cushioning in my knee. So make sure you tuck your feet because you will lose stuff in the process. So huzzah. But let's break this down a little bit, right? So first thing is, again, if you're introducing this to a brand new person, is open hand, right? Jazz hands. So from here, I would just recommend start from the kneel, right? Now you do in the form end up almost like squatting, so it's really pretty low to the ground. But from here, I like to just take a knee, right? And from here, you're gonna have your right knee up. So there's a few things you can do, right? So the way that I was kind of trained is almost like you're holding a bubble or something and kind of rolling it this way. What I'm going to do first is going to be a little bit potentially strange. But from here, all I want you to do is think more about leaning over the knee as opposed to around it. The reason I say that, and I'm not sure I'll face you, kind watcher. So from here, if I try to go this way instead of this way, I'm going to do the panted, and I'm going to regret having this on video because it would look very silly for all posterity. So if I do sideways too much, I'm just going to do the pencil roll, kind of just right? Not the most dignified, the least useful of any way to roll, and it's more likely to damage your back. Just don't, right? So, again, think more about coming over the knee. So although we call it a shoulder roll, it feels more of coming forward. Now it is a shoulder roll. Don't try to literally forward roll this way because you will snap your neck and that will be bad. But as you're here, tuck your chin. Again, make sure it's kind of tucked, slightly bold shoulders. And the idea is kind of come forward. If you want to put your hand down, you can. And think about dragging the meat of your shoulder to your opposite hip. So notice if you do it this way, there's actually fairly minimal duration on your actual spine as opposed to the pencil roll, where there's an entire portion of your entire spine being on it, which is even not as bad as the straight on forward roll, which will have all of the spine. So this way you have the impact on the meat of your shoulder, which isn't great for us because we use that to actually do some cutting, but it's better than spine. So from here, again, almost like you're going to like roll, like lean this way, noticing again my foot staying where it is, I'm kind of moving over it, and almost think about kicking off a little bit. So again, shoulder to hip, tuck your chin. Here, again, almost like you're going to knuckle, like punch the ground. Don't actually punch the ground because it's bad. From here, rolling here, like so. I know I'm really, really close. You probably can't see what position I'm at. But I look something like this as I land. So if I needed to, I could do another one. Don't, we'll get sick. But let's try that again, right? So if we start on our knee, again going forward, again almost excessively forward to the point that you're just going to tip, just toward the point, aiming for your shoulder, trying to go along this center line, the shoulder to the opposite hip. Again, if you want to think about rolling this way, you can. Eventually you can do that because you'll be holding a sword. But think about knuckle and then rolling down, almost like you're trying to like flex or hug a tree. Here, tuck. Tuck your back knee or you'll split your lateral meniscus. Here, again, contact, roll, and forward. Making sense? Because we like perspective, let me try it this way as well. So again, facing forward, right knee up. Notice I'm going to lean forward. Going to lean forward, I'm going to roll, again, almost knuckle, elbow. Don't actually hit your elbow, but the idea is kind of like have a nice curve here. So contact, rolling forward, again, almost like kicking off. Tuck your chin, tuck your knee, forward, this way. Not sure why this angle would help, but in case it does, right? You just have a cut here, and roll forward. You can probably imagine next steps. So now instead of starting in a kneel, start in a deep squat, which is what we're doing in the form, right? So now at this point, still be hyper gentle, right? I would much rather see a roll as opposed to bam and keep going, right? I would much rather see you be a blob slowly curling forward as opposed to like a cannonball jumping and skipping to the next move, because that will most certainly damage you and that's not good. So from here, so we just did it from a kneel, let's take it from a deep squat here. You can, for now, still make contact, and then almost like think about sotose, right? If you want to think about sotose and eventually kind of bowl out to make it a kimase, sotose, right? I'm trying to do this in camera. Sotose, punch the ground, but almost like skim, right here, and roll. Same thing facing forward. Again, we came from here, sotose, roll. Again, tuck your chin, tuck your knee, rolling along the shoulder, and roll. And then from the deep kimase. So we did it from the kneel, sotose, deep squat. It's gonna be the same idea. I still need to roll over this knee, so be very careful about that. In fact, if you really want to be careful and you're using a harder floor, you can, in the form, here, shift, and then go. So from our deep kimase, right, so from here, again, really think about going forward this way. Make sure you do actually shift your hip, because you do need to do that. Otherwise, you're going to do the pencil roll, which is not going to be helpful. So from here, we just did our cut, shift forward slightly. Again, lean down, almost like your knee, almost like it's going to buckle underneath you, and your ankle's going to kick underneath. And shoulder roll. Deep kimase, turn your hip, so you're actually going to be shoulder rolling instead of side rolling. Turn your hip, coming forward, and coming in this way. Swords, right? So once again, we're going to work our way back up. If you want to, start from a kneel, almost like you're going to punch the ground, right? Here, noticing it's just going to be off to the side, right? You're not trying to like, this way. Off to the side is fine. Here, again, think about shoulder rolling this way. Again, almost rolling around a nice open roll. Here, and then you're going to be tucking in, and then stabbing oh so merrily. From a kneel again, turn, again, so the blade is now, so actually more so that the hilt is now in front of you this way. So you can have that natural rolling curve this way. Again, make contact, tuck, tuck, coming in here, and bring the tip ready for a thrust for our next move. Then from the kneel, bring it up to sotose, same idea. So here, I like to have a little bit of a dramatic turn, and then shoulder roll, right? So here, tuck, and then you're going to eventually stab, and we'll get to that in a little bit. The same thing here, right? So we just did from kneel, sotose, open, coming in here, and then you can do your oso Mary stab. I feel like you might be getting dizzy just by watching me, but from here, again, nice kimase, make sure you engage the hip, turn the hip, again, otherwise you're just gonna roll on your sides. Turn, and then shoulder roll. Kimase, turn your hip as you pop this, tuck your knee, tuck your chin, tuck your heel, coming in for that thrust. And that's the main idea, right? So there's going to be a little bit here, it's not going to take that much longer. I'm going to talk about how to really engage that thrust afterwards and how not to do it. And this is going to be something that was taught to me, I believe, maybe not. So 50-50 shot, this was taught to me by a Federation Master or Master Paul. Who knows? Well, Master Paul's a Federation Master, but from Master Kim. So 50-50 shot, we'll find out which one is true. So imagining we just did our happy shoulder roll, right? So we're ending up in this position, right? So we're here. What are you going to do? Because here's what not to do, and this is the most common because people kind of freak out. Someone's there, you're just going to be like, kick that back heel out, and you notice that there's zero power. Like there isn't any power at all because there's an equal and opposite that's dispersing that energy. The and the means I'm very stable, but the endpoints are not powerful at all because they're kind of like taking away each other's power. So don't do that. It's very comfortable to do because there are fewer moving parts. So instead do this. I'm going to try to not flash you. So from here, the idea is I just shoulder rolled, I'm going to grab, I'm going to lean back on my back heel, also my back heel, I'm going to lean back on my heel, I'm going to roll up this way, so it's actually supporting my weight, and from here I'm going to kick off that heel to stab. So like what's facing you. So I just landed here, I'm going to roll onto my back heel to actually have something strong for me to engage with, here, and then stab. Now notice you don't have to like lift up your leg and then come back forward, but the general idea is, again, it's over exaggerating. The general idea here is to roll, to actually engaging the whole translation of your body to get that tip through the rib cage and into the other person's heart. Making sense? So I hope that was helpful. There's a very clear progression from going from the ground up. Eventually when you do this for the short, dive roll, which I won't make a video on because I can't do it personally that well, right? So like if I happen to have like a guest instructor who really wants to do it, cool. But it's going to be the same idea for the dive roll, right? Make sure you're able to shoulder roll first, and then think about diving and then being able to roll, again, almost like making like a gentle impact on your shoulder for the dive roll. But things to really consider when you do, how you do this. As you start training, start with a very soft flooring, right? So if you want to have like a mattress or again, just like some of those like puzzle piece mats or something like that, I would not recommend concrete or anything like that as your first attempt because, right? It's hard to learn when you snap your spine in half. However, definitely do let this be something that takes time. I know that sounds a little weird, so let me reiterate that. Let this be something that you grow as opposed to insta-learn, if that makes sense. So really like take a couple days from the ground, right? From that kneel, take a couple days to actually roll, and take another couple days to actually lift up to sose, and then a couple more days to actually go into like the full-on shoulder roll. It will definitely be worth it. So if you try to go straight into the dive roll, you're more likely to damage yourself in so many different ways. It could be from the impact, it could be from twisting, it could be from a bad way to roll. There's so many ways this can go wrong, which is why it's something I really want you to be careful with, because it is, again, the way I damage myself, and it's something that's very easy to be damaged. I would also recommend, if you do want to make this even better, again, I myself am not an expert in this, so make sure you look at, again, maybe some jiu-jitsu or aikido or judo or anything like that who really specialize in this kind of stuff, and maybe watch their videos, get instruction from someone in person who will get even better results. But if you really want to take this to the next level and do so safely, I would recommend see something like that. But with that, make sure you stay safe, stay humble, and keep training. Haidong.